Hello, good afternoon. People to jump on here. For how people are feeling today. I started my morning with some meditation and, my intention card for the day and what my day is going to look like for me, and I did a lot of self-reflection this morning during my meditation. And, everything that's going on right now, like I haven't been the most responsible that I could be, and that's something that I had to really think about this morning and think about, what my intentions are, what my motivation is, where I stand with a lot of different things. And my intention card for today ended up being challenges. I don't know if I can see this here. There we go. Challenges. When I got that, I was really, again, surprised. I tend to be surprised by these every day. But when I got it, it popped in, obviously what we're going through right now as a society in general, the challenges that we're facing right now, but also challenging myself, to do something different. And I was reading up a little bit today too. I've been up for a really long time today, but I was reading up a little bit today about, about intentions and the differences between intentions and goals. And, my understanding of all that is intentions are something that I set every day to give myself a purpose and, motivation to actually do something different. It's not like setting a goal like I want to have this job or I would like to lose 20 pounds in the next year, something like that. It's not the same. It's me waking up and consciously making the decision to do something different today. A lot of my self-reflection this morning came on that. What are my intentions every day? And how do I want to live my life? And one of those ways is giving back. Obviously I do what I do because I love to help people and be a part of a greater solution in the recovery community, but in general, across the board in my life. And I haven't been lately. I haven't been doing that and living what I choose to believe is my purpose for my life, and, I don't feel that great about that. So today, my intention is to actively do something different. And it's hard. It's really hard and it's not comfortable and it's a challenge. It is a challenge to do that. But I've been extremely selfish, and I want to live a selfless life. So that was, my prelude to my discussion today. So, I was sitting here reflecting on what I wanted to talk about today as an intention for the day. And I was looking through some readings that I have around my house, and I found this book that's called The Tree That Survived the Winter. And I got this from someone who's very important to me when I was in prison, actually. And, it changed my perspective on really what it comes down to is like having faith and not living in fear, and I read it again this morning. It's a little lengthy, but I decided that I wanted to read it to you guys. And then, we'll talk about the intention and actions that we can take afterward. So again, it's a little lengthy, but I love it and I'm going to share it with you guys. So it's called The Tree That Survived the Winter by Mary Fay. The tree awakened earlier than usual one morning and stretched her arms toward the horizon as if to invite the early rays of dawn onto her world. She shivered with delight, wriggling her roots in the muddy earth, which had only recently yielded its frozen hardness. She sensed something was different. Her roots seemed to be extending further and more firmly into the soil. Her arms seemed to embrace more of the world, not with the timid gestures of a sapling afraid of tangling with the wind, but with freedom of knowing that the wind could not topple her. I have survived the winter, she marveled aloud. How wonderful, whispered the dawn, who had a facility for appreciating new miracles no matter how often they occurred. She swirled around the young tree in a ritual of blessing, enveloping her gently, making her feel very special. How very different this feels, mused the tree. For a few short weeks ago, the melting earth beneath her roots had sent shivers of panic through every single branch. She had cried out in alarm then, sensing that she might sink into that dark hole and lose herself. How silly it all seems now, she realized, but the feelings had been real and could not be denied. It was not unlike the despair she had experienced earlier, when she had been removed from her safe and comfortable nursery bed and transplanted to this lonely hillside. She vividly recalled how frightened she had been, so isolated from all that was familiar and precious to her, so trapped in her fear, so unsure of who she was and what was to become of her. But mingled with the fear had been that saving, undeniable sense that she had been chosen from among others, had been transplanted with love and conviction to this spot. Often during the cold winter she had questioned the reason, but even while she had trembled with anxiety, she had felt an inner voice, a small but steady voice, which remained fluid and alive when everything else in her had seemed paralyzed. But now, she was filled with the realization that her inner life was in harmony with the world outside. She relaxed the tight fibers of her being, which she had unwittingly held rigid during the cold gray months. I have survived the winter, she exulted. You have survived the winter, the birds echoed, hopping eagerly from branch to branch, bouncing on the tender extensions of herself that the tree had not even noticed. Oh, this one word, spoken softly and reverently, was all the tree could manage as she examined the white buds beginning to show through the tips of her branches, once held hard clenched against the winter winds. I have survived the winter, the tree sighed, and I have grown. You have survived the winter, and you have grown, chorused the breezes that tickled her gently and sent her dancing to their syncopated rhythm. Days passed, and the energy within her fairly exploded, spilling out into clusters of lovely blossoms. She watched each day as they grew larger and more beautiful. Spring rains showered her with congratulations and encouragement. You have survived the winter, and you are growing, growing, growing. Growing, yes, I am growing, the tree acknowledged. I have survived the winter, and I am growing. She shivered with delight as she admired her new appearance, letting a few raindrops fall on the violets that enjoyed the shelter of her trunk. It is good to be alive, she told them. Indeed, said the sun, appearing suddenly from behind the rain cloud. You have survived the winter because you are very much loved. The tree could feel the warmth of the smiling sun penetrate deep into her branches, even through the bark of her trunk. She stood up tall and proud, as if for inspection. I am rather lovely, aren't I? She asked, giving a casual rustle to her blossoms and a graceful curtsy with her bows. See how well I have survived the winter? But then she stopped. For the memory of the hard winter set through her a stab of anger and pain that she thought the spring had healed. Where were you when I needed you? She cried to the sun, and suddenly her pent-up anguish found release in a flow of fluid that oozed from the cracks in her bark and trickled down the sides of her trunk. I needed you. I needed you so badly and you weren't there, she sobbed. You've been gone so long that I've been so cold and lonely and scared. The days were so gray when you weren't here, and even when I could see you in the distance, I couldn't feel your warmth or seem to reach you with my voice. Didn't you see me shivering? I became so brittle I was afraid of breaking, and my roots became paralyzed in the earth, and my bark cracked open. And she could no longer go on except to cry out, and I missed you, terribly. The sun's glow only intensified and the message was repeated. You have survived the winter because you are very much loved. Loved, she hesitated, not wanting to challenge the statement, but needing to be reassured. It's true, replied the sun, that there were days when the clouds seemed to separate us. But I was really there, even when you couldn't see me. And those days when I was visible but remote, when you couldn't feel my warmth. Those were the days when I sent a concentration of light. Why? There were even times when I gave you light and snow at the same time, so that my brightness would be reflected up to you as well as shining down. Those were the days when you thought the glare was too strong. The light was too bright. You were seeing more than you wanted to see. Remember? The tree stood dumbfounded. The sun continued. The chills and ice and bitter cold have toughened your timber to just the right degree, for you needed to be strong to carry the fruit that will appear on your branches. If I had stayed close all winter, you would not have grown this strong. In fact, you could not have become at all what I had hoped and dreamed you would be. But now, just look at you. A blush of pink coursed through her petals. The tree stood speechless. You have survived the winter because you are, and were, and always will be very much loved, said the sun. For that small place deep within you that remained unfrozen and open to mystery, that is where I have made my dwelling. And long, long before you felt my warmth surrounding you, you were being freed and formed from within ways so deep and profound that you could not possibly know what was happening. I believed, she whispered, noticing that the words seemed to come from an inner space deep within her. Yes, you have believed, sparkled the sun. You have always believed, and that is what enabled you to grow. For had you not kept faith with me in the center of your being, you could not have blossomed into you. This was almost too much joy for the tree to bear. She raised her arms high in praise, but no words would come, and no words were necessary. Weeks passed, and the once lonely tree became a part of life in the meadow. She playfully caught the kites of the children who gathered nearby, and then a spirit of fair play tossed them back again. You're a good sport, they said to her. We will call you friend. A young couple sat beneath the shade of her thickening leaves and spoke of their love for each other. This is a special place, they said, and they left their initials carved next to her heart. We shall call you Keeper of Secrets, they said to her. A tired, troubled woman, bent with care, walked silently through the meadow, oblivious to everything except her own worries. She did not even notice the tree. Come and rest a while, whispered the tree, but she had to toss a piece of fruit onto the path before the woman saw her. Warily, the woman sat and ate the fruit and pondered deeply. The tree could feel the woman relax as she rested against her trunk. Finally, that woman stood up. Thank you, she murmured, and embraced the tree. The tree winced, for the woman had touched a spot that had not healed from the winter's ravages. A spot that remained vulnerable through the spring and summer months had been good to her. The woman seemed to notice and caress the spot thoughtfully. At that moment there was a oneness, a sense of understanding between the troubled woman and the tree. I will call you Hope, whispered the woman, and touched her again with affection and gratitude. Profoundly humbled, the tree bent low, grateful for the obvious gifts she had to share, but even more grateful for the less obvious, the scars that produced an unspeakable solidarity. Long after her fruit had been shared and she began noticing touches of scarlet in her leaves, the tree still carried deep within her the memories of all of her experiences. Who could possibly have imagined all that has happened to me? She said to no one in particular. And then addressing herself to the sun, she said, except you. Have you seen? Have you heard? She asked eagerly. I am needed. I am wanted. I am sharing life at a whole new level. And best of all, I am named. Aren't they beautiful names? I am called Friend, Keeper of Secrets, and Hope. Indeed, replied the sun, splashing a smile across the evening sky. And what is the name I have given you? You have named me, the tree asked, astonished at her lack of awareness. Long before you were a seedling, the sun replied solemnly. What do you call me? She asked. Stay with the question, the sun answered, and listen very, very carefully, and I will tell you. Watching the sun slide behind the furthest hill, she stood motionless, waiting in the promise of a newly painted sky. What do you call me? She asked again in the stillness of the night. You are called Faithful, said the small voice from within. You are called Faithful, blinked the evening star as if to reassure her. You are called Faithful, proclaimed a trillion other stars as they burst through the darkness of the night. I see somebody has heard this before, so that was the story. And it really spoke to me when I read it this morning because, we go through a lot of challenges. We go through a lot of hard times, and I think that it's hard for us to remain faithful and trust that everything's happening for a reason, and that it's going to be okay. Remembering that we're not alone, even though we might feel like we're isolated in anxiety on this hill, removed from what we consider to be our comfort zone, removed from what we're used to, or removed from that key word of what's familiar, and right now I think a lot of us can relate to that, myself especially. I removed myself from a lot of things that were familiar to me, and it's really not easy, but one thing that I can hold on to is that hope and that faith that, I'm on the right path for a reason, or I'm on this path for a reason, and I choose to believe that it's the right path because of the fact that it's difficult, because of the fact of all of the scars that I have from my past make me who I am today, I really hold on to the belief that something is working that I don't see, the sun shining, the birds chirping, my friends reaching out at random times, feelings that I get in the pit of my stomach, my heart racing at certain moments. Little things like that are what I hold on to. And that's, that hope bank that I talked about the other day. Those little things fill my hope bank, and keep me moving through my challenging times, through the times that I don't want to get up in the morning, through the times that I literally just want to isolate to the biggest extent, Right now we're in a state where we are partially isolated, but I will take it further, I'll take that a lot further in the sense of not talking to people, not reaching out, not asking people how they're doing, stuff like that, and I'll get emotional and bitter, and angry and stuff like that. And that's what I do to myself when it comes to isolation. And for me, that's a sign that I'm not holding on to that hope, and I'm not trusting, and I'm not, I'm living in that state of fear and uncertainty. I'm living in my anxiety. And in the very beginning of this video, I brought up like things I've been doing lately, that really, for a while now, have went against everything that I believe in, that I actually stand with and believe in for myself, but because of uncertainty, change, the unknown, uncomfortability, stuff like that, I have done things that I normally wouldn't do. I'm not as responsible as I typically would be. I'm not as aware and selfless as I normally would be. A big part of it is being around people right now. And, it's okay to do that to an extent if I'm safe and I'm cautious and, I'm not in closed areas with people and I'm not, standing right on top of one another and stuff like that. But, I've done the exact opposite. I'm human. I've definitely made mistakes. But again, my intention for today is those challenges, and being mindful of that, setting that intention for today that I'm going to take that action to do something different. And what that looks like in my personal life are those things that I was just talking about, not doing what's comfortable at the moment, not giving in to the urge and the want and desire to do exactly what I want to do, Somebody this morning said it to me, you can choose to do something different, or you can choose to go right back and just do whatever you want to do, and for me, that's a part of my addiction, is giving in. And like when I'm upset, freaking out on somebody, that's a big one for me. I'm really upset about a few things right now, and my gut reaction is to exactly do that, is to react and freak out and be emotional and be a jerk, and I'm currently not doing that, and it's not easy. It's so not easy. It's not easy to try to seek revenge because I'm hurt or whatever, or just be a jerk in general. And another piece that ties into all of that is how selfish I've been over the past, year maybe. And I'm not saying that it's constant, but I've had moments where I'm super selfish. And things that I don't think about. I don't look at the bigger picture of things sometimes, and how stuff's affecting the greater population around me. My inner circle, my next circle of, supports, and then my community. How are these things affecting these people? So for me, my intention is to do something different today. That's it. Just anything different. And what that is going to look like for me is being mindful of that stuff. And, am I going to go out in public today? Probably not, Am I going to go to the store when I really don't have to? Am I going to go on a hike with people and be closer than I need to be? And there's nothing wrong with the fact that I did that. It's just that I'm realizing that it doesn't make me comfortable in the grand scheme of things. In that moment, am I having fun? Absolutely. Do I regret it? No, but I don't want to continue to do it. So, and that's where the action comes in is, checking my motives for today. Like, why am I talking to this person? Why am I acting this way? Why do I feel like I need to go out? Things like that, and putting it into perspective. Like, do I actually need it or do I want it? Which one is it? And another part of that is replacing all of the fears in my head with a faith. That definitely ties hand in hand for me. I can't take action if I'm full of fear because it will stop me at every step of the way. It will stop me. So if I replace those fears with faith and knowing that it's all happening for a reason, there is a greater plan to this. I will come out better. I will grow in ways that I never saw possible or thought I could if I just stick to my plan of action. So that's, who are you? Danny. Danny says she had read this before. It puts us all in a state of vulnerability. Absolutely. I can relate. Thank you. You're welcome. Mo, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. And thank you guys so much for, tuning into this. Nikki, I needed to hear this today. I've been struggling to not react by lashing out when my feelings are hurt. This is definitely not an easy task. I agree with you. I agree with you a lot, and we're all human. I don't beat myself up for it if it does happen. It did happen a couple days ago where I said a couple things that I probably didn't need to say. I use a lot of curse words, and I'm not comfortable with that today. And that's where I see my growth and my changes is that feeling I get that I'm not okay with it. And my instant solution focused brain, which is like, okay, how can I do this different? And what that looks like today is just not answering it. And that's okay. Maybe at some point I'll be able to, but I can't effectively do it right now without causing more harm to myself or someone else. And that is the exact opposite of the life I want to live today. I'm really glad that you needed to hear it and that you heard it. And I'm glad that it's helping anybody out there. It's helping me to talk about it with you guys, But yes, what I implore all of you to do today is set an intention to do something different today, whatever that looks like for you, whether it's, eating a little less, working out more, reaching out to more people, not going out as much, whatever that looks like for you. And then the action behind that would be to just change your mindset. If you're going into it with a fear-based mind or, a resentful mindset, it's not going to work. So if we change that to a faith-based, I will grow. I will be better if I make this decision. And, check your motives. Just check your motives. Take 1 second before you make a decision today to just make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons and how you feel about it, So that's my spiel for today. I'm really glad that I woke up and had the time that I had this morning. I was up a little bit earlier than I normally am. And I'm glad that I stumbled across this. Like, this is, that those things happening in my life that I can't explain or I could never have known that were going to happen. I had no idea what I was going to talk about today. Nothing that, was already there or had came to me. So, all of this, it started with this challenges piece, and it kind of stemmed from there, And I find that that's how a lot of things happen. I made the decision. I got up and I took an action today. Made the decision to actually process it and meditate on it and, do what I thought I needed to do to get the answers I needed on what to talk about today. And, it just kind of unfolded from there, So, yeah, I implore you guys just take that action today. Check your intentions, and set that for your day. What are my intentions today? What is it that I want to do different? And how can I do that? And then one little step at a time, for me, like I said, it's very minimal today. I'm just not going to go outside much. I might go check my mail probably. And I am going to check my motives before I do or say something. That's it. It's really simple, but I'm telling you from experience that, it really pays off in the long run. It really does. And for me right now, I know, like for me, not being able to go out and be social as I would like to be, that's hard for me. But I do have the option of picking up my phone and just calling people, and I know that if I do that enough today, it'll fill that hole that I feel like I'm missing, so little things, very small steps, and you'll be amazed at the results that you can get. And, just as we always finish these, like we are always here to talk, check in with, listen to you vent, whatever you might need. Facebook Messenger, absolutely reach out to me. But you can also message the ROCovery Fitness page itself. You can send us an email. You can give us a call at 585-484-0234, and somebody will get back to you or answer. And again, if you guys have any ideas or readings, maybe anything for me specifically too on this video, anything you want to talk about or intentions that you need help setting or any of that, please reach out to me and let me know. I'd be happy to accommodate in any way that I can. Again, it helps me, and we're here, to help you. This is what we live for. This is my purpose in life and my why today. Are you guys. So thank you, everybody, for joining in, and I really hope I helped somebody today. Have a good day.